あの交差点でみんながもしスキップをしてもしあの街の真ん中で手をつないで空を見上げたらもしもあの街
Thank you very much for joining this session. And let me introduce some part of Japan. That is, today's topic is ancient capitals, Kyoto and Nara. Actually, I live in Osaka, and Osaka is in the western part of Japan. And Kyoto is just north of Osaka, my hometown, and Nara is just, it's east of Osaka, so just next to each other. My name is Noriko. Let me first introduce myself. And this is me in kimono in a very traditional Japanese tatami mat room in my uncle's house. And my relatives, and including myself, is Buddhist. So this is Buddhist altar and Buddhism related scroll in the alcove. And this is zabuton cushion and sliding doors. So you might feel, find it very different from your country's ordinary, rooms. It's really totally different from Western style. My hobbies, origami. I really love origami, something like this. So it's a creative art of folding paper, and just one piece of square paper can be changed in many ways. So it can stimulate your creativity. And drawing pictures, it's important, my hobby. And also cooking and baking. I really love baking, and also rakugo, Japanese classical comic storytelling in English. And also I took this opportunity of, getting free time. I'm usually a tour guide. I had been an English tour guide for the past 6 years. And because of the COVID-19, all of my tour guiding jobs had been canceled. So now I work as an in-house translator. Sometimes I work from my home, and also, but I got a lot of free time. So I started my new hobby, that is rakugo, since last summer. So it's been almost 1 year. I have been trying to perform rakugo, Japanese classical comic storytelling. And it's another important aspect of Japanese culture. It's one person telling a story, playing multiple roles. And it's in many cases, like 19% of the rakugo stories are funny ending, comical. And I started this hobby 1 year ago, and also another new hobby of mine is French since this January. So I'm increasing my hobbies. Okay, and I have a YouTube channel, and then this is a rakugo. I'm performing the rakugo story titled Zoo, from the end of 19th century. So some of the rakugo stories came from the 17th century, and then some of them from 19th century. So many of them classical, and almost 90% comic story, funny storytelling. And I have this YouTube channel. So I have been uploaded almost 36 videos to introduce each and every aspect of Japanese culture from one particular place of, for example, Kawagoe or Origami Center, and then, for example, foods. And this time, after this presentation, I want to share another new video. I just finished creating that 10-minute video to introduce Japanese confectionery and also Japanese thatched roof built 300 years ago, and cotton, locally produced cotton. Okay, and let me move on to the basic information for the tourists. First of all, relatively speaking, it's safe in Japan. But, for example, this is actually happened, but my mobile phone mistakenly left in the Super Express train. That happened to my guest several years ago, but actually returned to the owner of the mobile phone next day. So many people are honest in Japan, but not necessarily, not perfectly safe. So you have to always be careful with pickpocketing, especially in the very crowded area. And the second point is tap water is okay to drink. So I always drink from tap water. I make my cup of coffee and tea from using tap water, so it's safe to drink. But if you worry or if you want, please buy a bottle of water. Over tourism in Tokyo, Kyoto, and also Nara, it had been really a big headache in tourism, and I hope that we can build back better tourism, change in a better way after this pandemic. And we have clear-cut 4 seasons: spring, summer. Right now is summer. We just finished the rainy season, and the autumn and winter. Especially many tourists are coming in spring and autumn because cherry blossoms in spring are very beautiful, and autumn leaves, red and yellow autumn leaves are very beautiful. So many people come that season, like from the end of March and until the end of April. So March, April, and also October, November timing for the colored leaves. That's a very popular season to come. And let me show you the location. This is, as you know, the map of Japan, and Tokyo, capital city here. And Kyoto is just next to my hometown, Osaka, old capital city, and Nara, another old capital city. And city of Kyoto, the population is 1.46 million. So 1.5 million approximately people live there. So it's the 8th biggest. So not so big, not so small. It's good size. And city of Nara, it's small city, I have to say. 360,000 people live there. So it's really peaceful. But certain places like World UNESCO Heritage Sites are very much crowded, especially spring and autumn. Let me first start from Nara, ancient capital that had been capital from 710 up until 784 after the Christ. And the most famous tourist place is, and also it's a World UNESCO Heritage Site, is Todaiji Temple. Now let me talk about the historical background for the reason why this temple was built. Buddhism came to Japan from Korean Peninsula in 538. That means 1500 years ago. And opening ceremony of Todaiji Temple with the great Buddha took place in 752. Because Prince Shotoku at that time, Prince Shotoku was one of the members of the imperial family. He said that let's make Buddhism national religion. So before Buddhism come to Japan, there was Shintoism. But Shintoism, talking about Shintoism, there was no written doctrine. Just so, thanks to the introduction of Buddhism that came to Japan in the early 6th century, Japanese people started to learn how to write and how to read, because there was a doctrine, written doctrine. And Prince Shotoku thought that that kind of Buddhist principles, Buddhist doctrine is really good to govern Japan, he thought. And then there was some controversy between powerful clans, but finally, Prince Shotoku and also the powerful clan could govern Japan with Buddhism. And then in order to have some symbolic statue to show everybody, to show the general public that this is the symbol of Buddhism, this is the Buddha, great Buddha that we can pray for, we can respect. So there was the Prince Shotoku and then also the powerful clan who supported Prince Shotoku thought that it would be a great idea to build temple with great Buddha in it. And then that temple, Todaiji temple, was built in the mid-8th century. And this is the structure, and this is the great Buddha. It's really huge. And this is me this April with mask in another kimono. And this big statue, a pair of guardian statues are placed at the front gate to protect the main hall. So this is one of the pair of the statues. It's really a masculine, powerful sculptures carved by famous sculptor Unkei Kaike in the 12th century. And it's also, these are registered as national treasures by the Ministry of Culture in Japan. He has many small curls on his head, which symbolizes wisdom. And he has a big dot on his forehead to emit light to the dark world. And his hand gesture means no worries. I give you what you want. Oh, let me show you. So he has many small curls on his head. This is the symbol of wisdom. He got a lot of curls on his head, a lot of wisdom. And this dot emit light to the dark world. And this height, number 1, let's see, almost 15 meters. It's quite huge. You have to look up to see his face. And number 3, for example, from here to here, it's 2.57 meters. And his hands, number 11, is almost 2.56 meters, 2.5, 2.5. It's really big hands. And then this hands gesture means no worries. I give you, I grant you what you wish. It's really peaceful, lots of meaning in here. And you feel very peaceful in front of this great Buddha. And just next to Todaiji Temple, there's Kasuga Shrine, another World UNESCO Heritage Site. And Kasuga Shrine was built in 768. And legend has it that one of the deities of Japanese mythology came to Nara, riding on the back of the white deer, like this. And this is Kasuga Shrine. And vermilion color is painted. Vermilion is painted everywhere because Japanese people in ancient time believed that this vivid red color has the strong power to drive away evil spirits. And the legend has it that one of the deities got on the back of the white deer and then came to Nara. And that's the origin of the Kasuga Shrine. And Nara Park. Nara Park is just next to Todaiji Temple and then the Kasuga Shrine. And Nara Park is famous for half wild but half tame deer. Almost 1,000 deer live there. Every morning, a person who belonged to the Deer Protection Association, so to protect deer, blow horn, and they hear the deer, hear the sound, and he feed them every morning, once a day, every morning. The half-thing. And some of them are naughty, really naughty, trying to poke people's backs and legs. But okay to buy deer cookies and feed them. This small stand with a lady, this is the stand to sell the deer cookies. And tourists pay like €1. That means 150 yen. It's like $1 plus 50 cents, $1.50. They pay money and then they buy deer cookies and then feed the deer. And these are the half-tame deer. Okay, let's move on to Kyoto and another ancient capital. This had been the capital city from 794 up until 1868. So almost 1,000 plus 100 years. It had been the capital city. So that's all right. There are many nice, beautiful shrines and temples even today there in Kyoto. And both Kyoto and Nara were not bombed during wars. So they retain what they used to be. And this is a map of Kyoto. It's great style. Emperor Kanmu, this guy, Emperor Kanmu built the capital in Kyoto in 794. So almost 1,230 years ago, almost 1,200 years ago. It's really a completely great style. Horizontal and then the vertical lines can be seen, referring to the Chinese old capital, Shangan. And it's based on the concept of feng shui. Emperor Kanmu said that it's better to based on that to decide the place based on the feng shui. White tiger in the west, black turtle in the north, blue dragon in the east, and the red bird in the south. And actually, in the 8th century, there was a pond ogura, and the emperor said, okay, let's regard this as red bird. And there was a major road Sanyo, and the Emperor Kanmu said that, okay, let's treat this major road as white tiger. And there was a mountain and in the north. And the emperor said that, okay, let's regard this mountain as black turtle. And there was a river Kamo. Emperor said, okay, let's regard this river as blue dragon. And each and every animal in each direction protect each direction. So each animal protects each direction. And the emperor said that, okay, geographically, this is the Kyoto is the perfect considering feng shui. And feng shui is believed that it can bring power to the certain place. Okay, and let me talk about the very popular 3 places. So I talked about 2 very popular places, 3 popular places about Nara Park, and also Kasuga Shrine and Todaiji Temple. And now I want to talk about 3 very popular places in Kyoto. Kiyomizu. In the 8th century, a Buddhist ancient heard voice in his dream while he was sleeping saying, go to Mount Ottawa and look for pure water. And ancient went to the mountain and happened to meet an old guy who gave him a piece of wood. And ancient, that Buddhist monk, carved Kannon Bodhisattva, Buddha statue, out of the wood and built a hut to keep it. That's the origin of Kiyomizu Temple. This is a Kiyomizu temple. It's 12-meter high and 139 logs to support the stage. And this is a Kiyomizu stage. And this is one of the most popular places in Kyoto. And there is even a proverb in Japanese. If somebody's behavior is really courageous, and you would say, he is as courageous, it's courageous as jumping from the Kiyomizu stage. So this is a famous Kiyomizu stage at the Kiyomizu temple. It's really high. And no iron nails are used, but only the wood intertwining each other because it's earthquake country. So if you used iron nails and then it gets rusty, iron nails gets rusty, and then in case of big earthquake, it can easily collapse. So better not to use nails, but interconnected with each other. And then this stage, this wooden structure can be flexibly react to the earthquake. And by the way, Kiyomizu, name of the temple, Kiyo means pure, Mizu means water. So the name of the temple is Temple of Pure Water. It's based on this legend, this story. Somebody said, go to Mount Ottawa and then look for pure water. And then Enjin heard that voice in his dream and then went to the mountain. So based on that story, the name of that temple is Kiyomizu, Pure Water Temple. I highly recommend you to visit, Nara Great Buddha and also Nara Park to see deer and also Kiyomizu. Okay, next one. Another very important, very beautiful place is Nicho Castle in Kyoto, in the city center of Kyoto. The civil battle broke out in 1600 and Ieyasu Tokugawa won the battle. Ieyasu is this guy. And he was the shogun, chief commander, and then he won the civil battle in 1600. Okay, I will answer your question.
I close the micro. Yeah.
And Ieyasu won the battle, and then he started Edo government in today's Tokyo in 1603, and he built Nijo Castle in 1603 in the same year to watch carefully the former enemies. So after this big civil battle, former enemies were forcibly followed the Tokugawa shogun, chief commander, but some of them were not happy because they used to be the enemies. So many of the former enemies lived in Kansai area, in Kyoto, Osaka, Nara area, in the west. So shogun, chief commander, wanted to keep an eye on their behavior. And then he built this castle, Nijo Castle. What's interesting about this castle is it's famous for wall paintings and tigers, leopards, and also pine trees, hawks, those something strong, like tigers. It's in order to show off the shogun's power and also in order to kind of intimidate and show off powers to let them obey to the shogun. So each drawing of each room has meaning. And the garden was designed by famous multi-talented designer and artist Kobori. And place where the power of shogun. Finally, Tokugawa shogunate had to end in the mid-19th century when the Commodore Perry came to Japan in 1853 from the USA. And in 1868, the shogun had to return the power to the emperor. And emperor regained the power, and he had been a political leader, not only symbolic figure, but also the political leader from 1868 until 1945 and until the end of the World War II. And there is a big room in Nijo Castle where the last shogun returned his power to the emperor in the ceremony. So the ceremony took place in one of the big rooms in Nijo Castle. And finally, Kinkakuji Temple. It's another very beautiful, very famous place in Kyoto, another UNESCO heritage site, and originally from the 14th century, from the end of the 14th century. And the shogun at that time, Shogun Yoshimitsu, built his villa. And he was really successful in trading with China and built this golden pavilion to show his power. Basic frame is cypress tree. So it's not solid gold, but the frame is made of cypress and lacquer is applied on top of it as glue. And then while the lacquer applied on the surface is while it's wet, gold leaves are applied on top of it. So only the surface is gold. And it's strolling around, walking around style garden with shakkei. Shakkei is one of the styles of garden that is borrowing of the scenery in the background. So no modern buildings are put in the background intentionally to enjoy the entire view. So not only this pond and the flowers and the structure in the garden, but also entire holistic view scenery is very esteemed, including the mountain in the background. It's called shakkei style, borrowing of the scenery style. Next, let me show you the video. I just finished creating this video this afternoon, and it's all about my neighborhood. Now I arrived at Yohei Torindo. It's about 5-minute walk from Kintetsu Yao Station. It's in the middle of ordinary residential area. This house was built about 300 years ago. During Edo period, a wholesaler of locally produced cotton had been the owner of this house, and it was designated as a tangible cultural property by the Japanese government in 1999. This is the typical Yamatomune style. You will find a stark contrast of color between dark brown roof and white plaster on the wall. Also, there is another contrast. That is material, thatch and tiles on the roof. The roof is in Kirizuma style, with two surfaces inclining from the ridge at the top, or in the shape of a half-opened book facing down. The longer side, which is parallel to the ridge, is hira, while the shorter side, which is perpendicular to the ridge, is tsuma. Kiri means cut. The Kirizuma style means the tsuma sides are cut vertically toward the ground. This huge traditional roof has to be rethatched once in 50 years. It's quite thick, almost 1 meter. Generally speaking, here in Japan, skill transfer of craftsmanship is really a difficult issue in terms of conservation of traditional culture. However, the shop owner, Mr. Itakura, says he's acquainted with a craftsman in Nara, just next to Osaka, who conveys his skills to the younger generation. The great-grandfather of the current shop owner bought this house from the cotton wholesaler in 1925 and started his confectionery shop. That's the origin of Yohei Torindo. The name of the shop, Torindo, came from Togenkyo, which is equivalent to Shangri-La, according to an ancient Chinese story. There was a big earthquake in Tokyo in 1923, and many people moved from Tokyo to Osaka. The population of the city of Osaka reached 2.1 million, exceeding that of Tokyo at that time. Osaka became so huge industrial city that it was even called Manchester in the Orient. From the mid-1920s up until 1934, when Typhoon Muroto hit this area, the city was called Great Osaka. This confectionery shop started against such historical background. These sweets in rectangular shape are called monaka, wafers filled with red bean paste. This is the signature product of this shop, named Tori Monaka. It came from an ancient Chinese proverb. Peach and plum don't say anything, but attract many people because the flowers look beautiful and smell nice, which means virtuous person naturally attract people. I happened to encounter the exhibition of Japanese traditional fans of Kawachi cotton. Kawachi is the former name of this area. This venue was chosen because this used to be the house of Kawachi cotton wholesaler. They are so beautiful. I never knew that there's such a time-honored, rich tradition in my neighborhood. They are dyed with indigo in many traditional patterns. In order to learn more, I decided to visit Kawachi Cotton Preservation Association. It's just 18-minute walk from Yohei Torindo. Cotton planting started in Japan at the end of the 15th century and started here in Kawachi in the early 17th century at the latest. In the early 18th century, there was a big construction work to change the direction of River Yamato to avoid disastrous flooding. It started in February of 1704, lasted for 8 months, and ended in October of the same year. The place, which used to be the riverbed, was perfect for planting cotton. This stone monument is about its history. According to the classical document, cotton fields accounted for 70% of the entire farmlands of Kyohoji village, or today's city of Yao, in the middle of the 18th century. After Meiji Restoration in 1868, lots of inexpensive cotton started to be imported from abroad. On top of that, machine was introduced and people quit spinning cotton by hands. Then, cotton production in Kawachi ended sometime around 1900. During Edo period, people used cotton first for their clothes and futon comforters. After using it many times, they used the same cloth to clean up the floors or as babies' diapers. After using it many times until it got worn out, it finally returned to the farmlands as fertilizer. In this way, it was circular during Edo period. A lady called Muranishi started the activity of preserving Kawachi cotton in 1976. First, Mrs. Muranishi found it very difficult to revive the traditional pattern of Kawachi cotton because almost all of the Kawachi cottons had already returned to the earth. However, a few high-end Kawachi cotton still remained in affluent merchant families because brides brought the cotton items as part of their bridal goods when they got married. Mrs. Muranishi tenaciously restored traditional patterns one by one. All of them were very auspicious, suitable for wedding. Cotton had been the livelihood of Kawachi people for almost 300 years, from the early 17th century to the end of the 19th century, and came back to the existence again in the late 1970s. The time-honored, rich tradition inspires people today and definitely will continue to nurture people's mind forever and ever. Thank you very much. And these are the many islands in the Seto Inland Sea. One of the islands I remember, I heard from my friends, one of the island is, it's a kind of colony of cats, many cats there.
Yes, there are many. I actually met a Japanese lady who mentioned it first to me about 6 years ago. She came all the way from Japan with her family to visit cat places in Europe. So she wasn't going to the usual tourist highlights, but she knew everything about every place in Europe where they had large colonies. And she was the first that mentioned it to me, and then I looked it up, but I forget where it's located. It's probably where so, you know, it's where you...
So please, if you want to really visit that cat island, and then please land in Kansai International Airport. Is here in Osaka, my hometown. Yes. And then you take train to here, Okayama City.
How far, what kind of distance is that? It's difficult to understand. Is it large?
From Osaka to Kyoto, from Osaka station to Kyoto station, it's like 30 minutes or 40 minutes.
Oh, only, okay.
But Kyoto, actually, the city of Kyoto in Kyoto prefecture is here. So not on the sea side, but it's really an inland.
Okay.
So from Osaka to Kyoto, about 30 to 40 minutes. From Osaka to Okayama, it's more than 1 hour by Super Express train, bullet train, Shinkansen bullet train.
Would Okinawa be
Okinawa somewhere?
Because that's supposed to be the place where the most people living to be 110, and it's And it's very interesting scientifically for, you know, for nutritionists and doctors interested in aging to understand
average longevity here in Japan. Average longevity here in Japan right now for women, it's like 87 or 80, 87 or 88. It's really long on average. And then for average longevity, lifespan for men in Japan, it's about 83, 82, 83. So over 80 on average for men and women both. And especially Okinawa, their lifestyle is very relaxing. It's tropical. It's not cold weather, but it's a warm tropical weather. And then they enjoy variety of fruits and the seafoods. And then they really love Okinawa people. Really love dancing, singing. They are really good at dancing and singing. So it's they enjoy something cheerful like dancing, singing, playing musical instruments. So longevity on average in Okinawa compared to that of main island, relatively speaking, longer. But many American troops live there in Okinawa. And I heard that recently, what they eat is very much modernized, not traditional Ryukyu, Okinawa tropical foods, but younger people tend to eat hamburgers and then the deep fried potato or potato chips. So their lifestyle has been changing. So longevity right now in Okinawa is almost same as that of main island, I heard. So about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, longevity lifespan in Okinawa Island was longer than other part of Japan, but recently, no big difference, I heard.
あの交差点でみんながもしスキップをしてもしあの街の真ん中で手をつないで空を見上げたらもしもあの街のどこか